Justice Strategy Session. I am Cintya Molina with my wonderful co-facilitators, David Cammarata, Samantha Fenwick, and Melisha Linzie. We're going to be introducing ourselves more thoroughly shortly. Just reminding everyone that this space centers the experiences of Black disabled students, and through their experiences, the intersection of racism and ableism in disabled students' lives. So that is where you are. That is what the space is. And we are going to start with an offering from Leroy Moore from the February 2020 Disability Rights in Black. Leroy Moore is a very well-known local disability justice artist, activist, writer. And there is a picture of him. He's an African-American man with short white hair, a short white beard, and a mustache. He is standing behind the podium wearing a Black t-shirt with the words 40th year celebration and a picture of the Black Panthers. So I'm gonna go ahead and cue up that video. Give me a second. Hold on, I need to stop sharing to do that. Are you all seeing the video?
Yes, we are.
Great.
Hello, my name is Leroy Moore, and do you know your Black disability history? I'm a poet, activist, journalist, and founder of Hip Hop Nation. My book says it all. Black Disabled Art History 101. We need more politically Black disabled youth and young adults. That means parents, counselors, teachers, and other adults need to put the history, music, art, and writings of Black disabled elders, ancestors, and Black disabled youth and young adults in front of you. Hip Hop Nation, Poor Magazine, Sins and Ballad, and the National Black Disability Coalition have added to the rich artistic and activist foundation for you to walk in the spotlight of your life as the next generation of Black disabled adults. I leave you with my poem that should be a part of your education in schools and in the Black community, entitled Black Disabled Art History 101. Let's all push for more Black disability history, art, activism, music, and justice. 365 days. Peace.
Hashtag disability rights in Black. Happy Black History Month.
$2,000 strong. And when we sat down on the parking lot of Sears.
There we are.
Good morning, everyone. Just a reminder, some information that this session is being transcribed. When you speak, please make sure to speak slowly. We will remove any identifying information from the transcript. Only the segments in which facilitators, myself, Cynthia, David, or Melisha are presenting will be recorded. The breakout sessions will not be recorded or transcribed. If you're not comfortable with being recorded during the times when we're all together, you can go ahead and go off camera. So this is the access check-in. We work together for greater access. The work of access is never finished. Be in this space however you need to, video on or off, laying down, moving around, using other tools, etc. Live captions are available. Pace yourself. Descriptions of images and other visuals are present in the slides. Pause at each slide and allow time for other folks to read. Breaks to read the chat are embedded in our session. Style of slides and size of text is intentional to be more easily accessible. And please provide accessibility feedback in the chat. If your needs are not being met, please let us know in the chat and we will make sure to make adjustments.
So we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves one by one, starting with, Melisha.
Welcome everyone and good afternoon. As Cynthia just mentioned, my name is Melisha Linzie. I identify myself as African American, she, her pronouns. I am an Oakland native, Oakland Tech graduate. I'm a mother of an African American young adult child. I forgot to mention, well, I didn't forget, but I took it out an opinionated young adult child. I have a degree in liberal arts and a minor in human development from Cal State Hayward. And I have worked in OUSD at school sites and currently centrally since 1994. I was a paraeducator from 1994 to 2021, and I worked in several capacities in those roles, mild, mild intensive, and the young adult. And currently I am a family engagement specialist. So as you see, it's 2021 to current. One of my biggest things that I like to say about myself, I am a strong advocate for employee rights and disabled students. And I would pass it on to my colleague, Samantha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Samantha Fenwick. I am the parent of 3 Black children, 2 boys and a little girl, 2 of which own disability identities themselves. I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. I'm Black, adopted, and raised by 2 white parents. I'm an Oakland transplant from Monterey, California. I am disabled. I'm neurodivergent, autistic. I deal with chronic pain, ADHD, and more. I'm the Network 3 District Family Engagement Specialist, and I'm here because my children's experience in schools activated my passion in this work, and my love for kids, and especially our kiddos in Oakland, is what keeps me here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Cammarata. I use he, him pronouns, and I identify as a white guy. I am one of the directors in the Department of Special Education. I support our transition program. So I work with our young adult program, which is for students aged 18 to 22 with moderate to extensive support needs. And I also support our career transition services team, which is a team of case managers that provide transition services to students in every high school and many of the middle schools across the district. This is my 19th year working in special education. I have worked across the continuum of age with a 1st through 3rd, all the way up to young adult. I have also worked across the continuum of need, starting as a mild moderate special education teacher and working as a moderate extensive support needs teacher in the young adult program. This is my 15th year in OUSD. I worked for 2 years in LAUSD and Richmond Public Schools in Richmond, Virginia. I don't identify as a person with a disability or a handicapping condition. I am a Bay Area transplant. I grew up in the Chicago area, mostly to get away from frozen water on the ground. Love it out here. And I just want to really say I'm honored and privileged to be a part of this session with you all today. And I feel very, very lucky to be a part of this. So thank you. Cynthia, you're up.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Cintya Molina. I am Boricua. For those who don't know, that means Puerto Rican, but that's our indigenous name. And that comes with an African diaspora identity and experiences. I use she, her pronouns. I am the mother of an African-American and Boricua autistic youth. He's now 18 and a senior. I'm not identified as disabled myself. My studies are in African-American studies at UC Berkeley, ethnic studies, and a passion for disability justice in education. I have been an advocate as a parent since 2009. And I have worked in OUSD schools and centrally since 2005. And I want to also thank you for being here and thanking my colleagues for taking on the challenge. You know, we all are doing this together, trying it out, right? So thank you so much for doing this together. So now I think this is not me.
It is definitely me. So right now, did we change the screen?
Yes, so right now inviting others to introduce themselves.
Okay.
So if you would like to introduce yourself in the chat, Melisha is going to help us out and monitor that chat. You could introduce yourself by your role. Are you a parent, a teacher, a staff, especially as it relates to disabled students? Gender pronouns, race, ethnicity, nationality, disability identity, school, program, department, field, what brought you here? These are suggestions, any and every of them that you want to use. So take a moment to introduce yourself.
And we just really want to appreciate everybody for being here. A few things that have come up in the chat already are that there are questions or concerns about the ability to be on camera or off. And we just want everybody with us today to know that we're happy that you're here, how you can be here. If you need to be off camera, if you want to be on camera, we're happy that you're here. We're happy that you're participating. So thank you for being here.
Is there a request for being on camera? Because I only see us on camera.
There's others.
Yeah, we have some participants.
Oh, that's just my view. Apologize.
Well, we do have Christina Molina. Oh, one of our CAC friends. She's disabled. She's a parent of 4 children with learning disabilities at OUSD. Okay. Tambra, case manager. Sheila. Hi, Sheila.
Welcome, everybody.
All right. Cheyenne Wilson. She's a teacher, deaf and hard of hearing at Bret Harte.
We've got a librarian in the house.
Librarian, counseling intern. They moving fast, you guys. So hey, forgive me if I miss your name. You guys are coming on good.
I got you, Melisha.
Yeah, Randall, former teacher. All right. Even 14.
China.
Hope I didn't say your name wrong.
Sorry about that,
Him.
Ms. Wilson.
That's right.
We've got a Stip from
China,
Pascalita.
still from Las Colitas. Hi, Sheila. Hey, Nola T. Yes. Nola.
Okay, and Melisha, we can move on and you can explain how we're going to do chat checks.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you. We would allow time for everyone to read the chat. We will also recap the chat out loud. Feel free to turn down the audio to only review the chat visually. We will place the phrase recap done on the chat when we finish the review. Okay.
All right, so we've got Amy, the Stip at Las Colitas. Welcome. I think we said hi to Nola. How could we forget Nola? Connie from Las Colitas, welcome. Thank you for being here. Coriander, we've got another CAC member joining us today. Thank you. SPED teacher.
Right.
Oh, we've got an assistant principal from Bret Harte. Welcome, Sierra.
We got Mr. Nelson. Hello, Mr. Nelson.
We got our
Gardner, Health Access Program. All right, I think we can move on now.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here.
So this one is you, Miss Linzie.
If we weren't able to include you in the reading of it, apologies for that, but welcome. You are all welcome. Thank you for being here.
All right, be mindful of airtime, take space, make space, use I statements, practice self-focus. Sorry, you guys. Call in with love versus calling out with shame. Embrace vulnerability, discomfort, growth, and mindset. Maintain confidentiality. Practice mindful listening and compassion. Understand the difference between intent and impact. Practice both and speaking. Try it on.
Thank you, Melisha. And I believe we have a link to all the agreements. If you can
Yes.
put those in the chat, if people want to go into them a little more deeply.
Right.
So thanks so much. So, so Miss Samantha.
The roadmap for today, 10 minutes. We'll cover the charge for this year and this session and definitions. There'll be a 2-minute pause for a chat check. There'll be a 2-minute pause for a chat check after every header. 20 minutes, there's an interview that we're going to be listening to. It's also transcribed, so if people need to read it to access it, it will be on the screen. And then there will be great breakout group sessions, grounding questions for today, and a group discussion along with everybody's favorite tool, a Jamboard, and then a list of possible questions and topics for future learning and future sessions that we're going to ask you to rank by importance to you or interest to you, things that you might want to explore in future sessions. That'll be 10 minutes, and then 5 minutes at the end for the next steps and closing. And that is where we will share the links for the overtime form and the exit ticket for this session. Our charge. Can I get a volunteer to please read this? Because I'm tired of hearing my own voice. Or I can volunteer someone.
I can do it. I can do it.
All right.
So our goal is to identify some initial steps for launching a disability justice learning group for OUSD staff. First, we will name some personal, cultural, and institutional barriers that we must understand as a district to combat the intersecting ableism and racism that OUSD disabled Black students and other students of color face. Then we will offer ideas for organizing a disability justice learning group that can prepare staff to combat those barriers district-wide.
Thank you, David.
Okay, we're going to start diving in. A quick hosting note, David. Someone could not unmute themselves. Can you double check that people can do so?
Okay, I'll work
It
on
might
that.
be just an individual issue. So, when we speak about racism, ableism, disability justice, we do have to have shared definitions. And this is the definition that has risen to the surface in the disability justice world. It was developed by T.L. Lewis with members of the Harriet Tubman Collective and other disability justice organizations to encompass, a fuller view of what ableism is. So I'm going to read it and kind of break it down slightly. This is a type of learning that we would be doing in this learning group. So the definition reads, ableism is a system that places value on people's bodies and minds based on societally constructed ideas of normalcy, what is normal, intelligence, excellence, and productivity. These constructed ideas are deeply rooted in anti-Blackness,
Recording in progress.
eugenics, colonialism, and capitalism. This form of systemic oppression leads to people and society determining who is valuable and worthy based on a person's appearance and or their ability to satisfactorily produce, reproduce, excel, and behave. And one thing that TL adds is that you do not need to identify or be identified as disabled to experience ableism. And that's a whole other conversation. So my colleague asked me to emphasize the connection between racism and ableism. And that is something that is crucial. And I wrote something up to help myself because I am also learning how to share these with groups. So I'm going to read straight from script. So racism and ableism have the same underlying logic. Eugenics and white supremacy created and create a hierarchy of body and minds as less or more human, all organized around a fake line of division between normal and not normal. So physical traits, be they color, be they the way a body is constructed, cultural traits, behaviors, etc., all become cataloged as desirable or undesirable in that logic. Then those people who are categorized in that way are marked for containment or elimination. That is the logic of racism and ableism both. So it is a system of measuring and ranking humans to justify the treatment that they receive. So you cannot be anti-racist without being anti-ableist, because both are rooted in ideas about intelligence, beauty, and fitness, and how bodies are disposed of or not, or valued or not. So this perpetuates that logic that is both a racist and ableist logic. So we are here to counter that from two directions by centering the experiences of Black disabled students, and put in a simpler way ideas about beauty, intelligence, excellence, productivity show up in our lives when we speak about children as good or bad, beautiful or ugly, smart or dumb, strong or weak. And based on those ideas, we decide who is valuable and worthy, and what resources are assigned, and what attention is assigned to particular individuals. So that is a modest attempt to begin at a definition, but we definitely need to have shared definitions. And we decided to put this here just as an invitation for future discussion, and how good, bad, all those lines show up in our lives. Can public practices like this one, and what you're seeing is an image of a behavior chart that is arranged vertically with color-coded green, yellow, and red, and words that read awesome, super, good job, oops, warning, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, loss of privilege, and individual children are on clips on that chart on that scale. So the question is, can public practices like this one work to promote ableist perceptions? Can they send or reinforce messages about which children are worthy and valuable based on their ability to produce, behave, or excel? So that is an invitation. And this quote is David.
Okay, so ableism is connected to all our struggles because it undergirds notions of whose bodies are considered valuable, desirable, and disposable, by Maya Mingus. And I think this is a very important grounding quote. Thank you for letting me share it with you all today.
Okay, right now, I'm just going to take some time to read the chats. So we only have a few responses, which is good, but may not, because we are a little behind. So I just want to respond to Coriander, who said, LOL, I see it, thank you. And Sai, vote for teachers, the illogical reasoning. And so for the sake of time, is there anyone else that want to respond? But for the sake of time, I'm going to put recap done.
And I do apologize. You all are now able to come off mute when it's time. That was an error in the system that was on me. So I apologize for that.
And thank you to the parent who pointed it out. So right now, just naming to my co-facilitators that while the text is on the slides, I don't know if I can share the audio on the slides at the same time. So if one of us can take the text from the slides and just dump it in the chat, it would be useful. And sorry about that. I'm going to try it. So what it can sound like, centering Black disabled students. This is an excerpt from a Be Anti-Racist podcast with Ibram X. Kendi and Rebecca Coakley, and is titled "If Ableism and Racism Roots of the Same Tree." And so here's the banner from the podcast, and it has a cartoon image of Ibram X. Kendi with long dark locks and a trim beard and wearing a green blazer over a white shirt. And there's outline images of many people standing behind him. So it will be 5 minutes and 2 seconds. And before we hit play, for those who can see, these are pictures of Ibram X. Kendi and Rebecca Coakley. Melisha will be dropping some resources that have biographies of them if you want to learn more about their work. So in this one, excuse the typo, Ibram X. Kendi, it's again pictured in the same way with the same hair. In this, he's wearing a beige colored shirt and a suit, and he's standing in front of a background that has a yellow circle and a broad reddish line. And then you have Rebecca Coakley, who is a white little woman with shoulder length light red hair. For those of you who don't know, little person is a disability identity that's strongly held. And she is wearing a dark blue blazer and silver hoop earrings and is standing in front of a red brick wall. So I'm going to go back to the link and hope this works. Okay. Oh, I had this queued, but it's no longer queued. How did that happen? So I'm going to try to forward us. Are you seeing and hearing the
No, you're
podcast?
gonna need to roll down a little bit on the browser so that the video is in the picture.
One more time?
Can you scroll down on the screen?
Oh, okay, there. Oops, it's not scrolling down.
There we go.
Okay, so I'm going to try to find this.
Communication board to communicate.
So, and can one of my colleagues
Who
tell
made
me
that-
what the breaking point was I put in the previous slide? It was 17 minutes and something.
28 seconds,
17:28.
22 minutes. and
Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. And let me know if you hear it with a thumbs up.
People with disabilities come anywhere near the level playing field that the law aspired to all those years ago. I'm Rebecca Coakley, and you're listening to Be Anti-Racist with Ibram X. Kendi.
I don't know if I've shared this with you. My brother has a mental disability. And I think one of the ways in which I've seen him experience the world as a Black boy and then ultimately a Black man with a disability is that it seems as if due to his Blackness, he has not provided the protections of someone who has a disability. People just see him as Black.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it even starts at the earliest days of education. I mean, we see if you're a white student and express certain behaviors, you're more likely to have access to better fine-tuned diagnostics and more likely to be accurately diagnosed with something along the lines of autism. But if you're a person of color, specifically if you're a Black boy with a disability, you're more likely to be diagnosed as what they call EBD, or emotionally behaviorally disturbed. And just thinking about the language and what that says to a child, what that says to a family, what that says to a community, EBD sounds criminal.
Yeah.
And thinking about the fact that a majority of resources that are targeting families of young people with disabilities are in no way, shape, or form grounded in the values of communities of color. You know, my husband, who you'll laugh about this since you're a FAM grad, my husband's a Howard grad.
Oh, geez.
And my husband has a vision impairment. And he grew up in South Carolina and didn't realize that he could get large print books until after he graduated Howard.
Wow.
He thought that everybody spent 6+ hours a night doing the reading to keep up. It wasn't until right before he graduated where somebody was like, you know, you can get large print or you can get books on tape. And he talked to his parents about it. And his parents were like, we knew raising you in South Carolina, where the state only guarantees a minimally adequate public education, that if we would have advocated for accommodations for you, they would have automatically pushed you into special education. And that would have been it. And so I think there is a lot of fear, and it's grounded in what the Black community knows about segregation. You know, we've never talked about the rights of students with disabilities in the education space as civil rights.
Yeah.
We always talk about moving people to a separate classroom. And so I think there needs to be a lot of talking about what are the civil rights of students of color with disabilities, starting in education and moving throughout the world, because people aren't informed.
No, they're not. And for me, there is nothing scarier than those times in which I knew my brother had to, in some capacity, interact with the police.
Yeah.
And specifically in recent years, I've begun to see, of course, through all sorts of cases and certainly videos, why we were always scared, why my parents were always scared. But it's not just, of course, parents of color who have children with disabilities, it's white parents too.
Yeah.
It seems as if this is a systemic issue of the police killing people with disabilities. And I think there's many ways in which we can talk about police violence. There are many ways in which police violence, specifically in the United States, demonstrates itself to be really chaos, to be a scourge. But for me, I don't know of a way that police violence is worse than when we're speaking about the number of people with disabilities who are killed, and then even the number of people with disabilities who are in prison, and the number of those people who are people of color.
And the number of people of color who leave the carceral system who have acquired disabilities while in there.
Wow.
Because of the intense trauma of incarceration. And there's no connection to a community. There's no connection to understanding what your rights are. We deal with situations where people who are deaf are not given qualified sign language interpreters when engaging with their lawyers. And it is terrifying. And it starts in the schools. And I mean, that's the significant issue around school resource officers.
Hey, and we are seeing, everybody's seeing the last quote, right, from Rebecca Coakley, and it reads, and it is terrifying, and it starts in the schools, and that's why we're here. So what we're sharing is a slide for those of you who are using a reader in your computer. This is an image which readers cannot read. And the next slide, I put all this data into a table so that you can follow along. And I will try to review this data verbally as best as I can, considering that there are many data points. So what you're seeing is data from 2018-19 that the Community Advisory Committee for Special Education started reviewing. This is the baseline data that is available considering the disruption of COVID. And this is their baseline for the work that they're doing around the suspension of Black disabled students. And they have updated this for last year and inviting you to the ongoing conversation that is happening through that committee. But this is, what made the problem look so starkly evident. We knew it, we just hadn't seen it in numbers. So the top line has African-American students, disabled African-American students who are receiving special education. And it's their suspension rates ranging from 5.7% in kinder to 8% in 5th grade and jumping to 24.8%. And this is not incidence, this is percentage of students suspended. So 24.8% in 6th grade and maintaining in that 20 mid-range, all the way to high school 9th grade, 20.2%, and decreasing in senior year 7.5%. And of course, we have to ask, what is the number of students in each of these percentages? Because we lose children too. So, but this illustrates the issue. Then you see the middle line has students who have disabilities and receive special education, but who are not African-American. And you see a disproportionality too. It's very different, 0.8% in kinder, going to 2.5% in 5th grade. And then it jumps in 6th grade to 6.3%, all the way to 13.3% in 8th grade. It maintains 12.8% in 9th, and it decreases to 3.6% in 12th grade. And then what you see in the bottom is African-American students who are not disabled, at least not identified as such, who do not receive special education. And the rates are similar, but slightly higher than disabled students who are not African-American, starting at 1% in kinder, 3.6% in 5th grade, jumping to 13.3% in 6th grade, and similarly staying in that range until you get to ninth grade at 14.1% and then 2.8% in the last row, which is 12th grade. And these have shifted in the most recent data, but the trends are similar. So, and COVID did have some impacts in ninth grade that we are noticing that are pretty remarkable. So this is for you to start the conversation around what it means when we zero in on the intersectional experience of Black disabled students and what we see. So I'm going to pass it on to my colleague. I believe this is Melisha, who is going to invite us to conversation.
Okay, I just want to and just read a couple of chats that's here from Shana, which said, good and bad stands out strong, as it says often to young children by well intentions, people, easy to forget, impact to their growing sense of self. Thank you for that. And also, just I want to just mention my colleague Samantha, just appreciating what Shana said. I appreciate how you said that. I'd agree 100%. And so Leah is little different than someone dwarfism, or dwarfism is an outdated term. I know that disability and ability awareness is something I'm trying to educate myself about better. Thank you for that. That's what this space is for. And just, and Bianca, again, equally terrifying is the number of Black boys with intellectual disabilities being overrepresented in JJC's arrests and etc. And Dennis Nelson, and this stark reality despite district efforts to find alternative to suspension. And I'm going to type recap for this one, Cynthia, so you can, well, I got one more before I do that. We have to prioritize all of our staff and teachers really knowing our students and the best way to engage with them and support them. Knowledge and relationship is key. Okay, I think we can move on to the next slide.
Go ahead and you can read this to
okay. All right, I just want to be, for the time. Okay, as we gather to center the experiences of disabled students of color, especially Black disabled students, share about something that stood out for you from the conversation between Emerald X, Kendi, and Rebecca Coakley.
Okay, so we are going to have 15 minutes for these breakout rooms. I have tried my best to randomly assign 4 people together. I think that myself, Cynthia, Samantha, and Melisha are going to try and visit the breakout rooms. If you have any questions or need support, please feel free to use the chat and one of us will come and help out. And I just apologize in advance if there's a technological snafu, much like the muting and unmuting from earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and open all rooms. Everybody should be automatically assigned.
I also just want to remind everyone that the breakout rooms are not going to be transcribed or recorded. So please feel free to be 100% authentic and raw. This work can't go anywhere if we don't have the hard and real conversations. So just wanted to make sure that everybody remembers that.
And I am pausing the record.
Forward, we want, would like 2 people to please raise your hand and share something from your discussion that really hit home. But I want to make a reminder that for our confidentiality agreement to not share people's names or personal experiences, more generalized sharing is what we're asking for. And then quickly for accessibility, under each photo, so the first photo is a picture of 6 light bulbs in a line. 1 is upright and lit. The other 5 are on their side and unlit. And that is under the question, what stood out from you from the conversation with Ibram X. Kendi and Rebecca Coakley? And then under the question, what feelings come up for you when looking at the suspension data? There are 4 thermal images of human figures, some with a higher heat signature than others. Each is labeled with one of these words. Sorry, something just popped up. With these words, gratefulness, disgust, love, and failing. So that was just a visual to help people kind of get in the mindset of answering the question. So if there are two people who could please raise their hand and share what this experience was like for them, what came up for them, or what stood out for them, I would appreciate it. Anybody? If you're not comfortable sharing, that is okay. We can move on.
I was trying to share, not take up too much space, but in the silence, I will speak. I really appreciated my group, and it was great to hear from other school sites. And I think one thing that stood out for all of us was the importance and what we would love to do to remove barriers from families not accepting services that would really benefit their young people, their children, because of stigma or labels or a fear of not having their students be able to advance in the same way because of that perception. And then also just really excited that this is a kickoff for OUSD as a whole, really looking at how to work on that at our school sites. And a super quick shout out to my school site folks who are on this. Excited to have strength in numbers.
What school?
We're at Bret Harte Middle School.
Oh, yay. Bret Harte.
Thank you, Sierra. And then I just wanted to call out Sheila in the chat shared. I was just going to say, if you don't know who you're dealing with, it is very easy to assume that a child is misbehaving, which in fact, they are trying to communicate in some kind of way, especially in regards to students who have trouble communicating or are nonverbal. And then there's a lot of appreciation for sure for Sheila in the chat. And then we can move on to the next slide. Thank you for sharing. So here are our questions for today. What is getting in the way of centering disabled Black students and other disabled students of color in OUSD? What shifts in mindset are needed to center disabled students of color, especially Black disabled students? And what systemic barriers exist at various levels, school, district, community, etc., that we would need to understand and explain? So we're going to, Melisha, if you could please drop the link in the chat for the Jamboard. We created a Jamboard. If you can click into it and go ahead and make sticky notes answering these questions. This is also an invitation to just have an out loud discussion off mute on these two questions. And while the discussion is taking place, we'll be taking notes with no identifying information, but just to like get the heart of what people are sharing. So I want to invite you to please engage with the Jamboard and also come off mute and share. Again, the questions are, what shifts in mindset are needed to center disabled students of color, especially Black disabled students? And what systemic barriers exist at various levels, school, district, community, etc., that we need to understand and explain? So we have 20 minutes for this discussion.
If you'd like to come off mute, you can come off mute. If you'd like to raise your hand, I can let you know that you're up. If you'd like to share on the Jamboard, we can go about that way. If you'd like to share in the chat, we can go about that way too.
It looks like some folks are having some issues accessing the Jamboard, so I'm going to go into the settings and fix that right now. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
All right.
Thank you for letting us know, and thank you for your patience. Go ahead, Sai.
So I've been meaning to raise this at CAC, which for people who don't know is the Community Advisory Committee, the special ed body that includes parents and district members, that we're always saying disabled students instead of students with a disability. And so I didn't know if you had all had a discussion about that before, and I just missed it because it's been so consistent. And so I was just wondering about that, because that is one way to change our mindset.
Yeah, I'm loving that you're bringing that up, because it is one of the topics that we're going to give you as an option for a future session. The shorthand for it is that in the disability justice community, disabled is an adjective that is held as a politicized identity, just like you would say black person instead of person with blackness. So it is usually with disabilities is meant to say that you're a person first, but being disabled doesn't take your personhood away. So it is a shift to a politicized positive identity for disability. And it also allows us to think about disability as disablement. It's a process. People are disabled by society. So that's the shorthand, but that is a great plug for one of the topics. And no, there is no right or wrong here because there are also debates in the community about this. Or there is senses of right and not. Yeah.
Thank you.
Dennis, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep here, but I realized what was resonating with me as we talked about ableism in education was the history and centrality of the charter movement. And I mean, not only does it generally, in terms of historically, come out of like Christian school movements in the South, which were a response to segregation, but the notion that we need to make schools better for the students that are struggling with integrated schools with students with a variety of individuals, including students with disabilities, because this is coming out of a much larger civil rights access point for education. And I think when we look at charter schools, we see the language that's used. They call their students scholars. And there's nothing wrong with that on a certain level to sort of say that, you know, we're looking for the academic strengths of every student, but there's a ableism sort of built into that as an elite kind of educational institution. And not surprising, the charter school movement, when you look at the data, is disproportionately students with ability vis-a-vis other schools. So school districts like Oakland have students with a variety of disabilities in their programs. Charter schools do not. And so this is, again, the intersections of racism and ableism is playing out in educational systems, not just public schools, but charter schools as well.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you. I'm seeing in the chat, Stephanie shared at a systemic level, teachers who are unqualified are often placed with the highest need students. And that this is due to the lack of quality teacher prep courses and training.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think there is a lack of education around SPED unless you're specifically in the SPED department. Like, I feel like that is a big hole in like my education. Just for background, I'm a librarian at Bret Harte. I have my master's in librarianship. And it's not something that's talked about. Like, we talk about it within my program. It was talked about like, how do you deal with like maybe perhaps like homeless patrons who have disabilities and like things like that, and like those kind of confrontations. But as far as like children's services and, you know, working in a school, like I feel like unless we're in those IEP meetings, we're not getting that information. And we need to have the education around, you know, those with differing needs and abilities so that we can better serve them. And I don't think that that's being, you know, given, like, we're not given those opportunities. We have to seek them out on our own, you know, which I do. But I think that needs to be something that's like more universalized across the world or across the education sphere. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm seeing that Cheyenne, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, put in the chat that teachers and administrators choosing to view things as a behavioral issue and being punitive instead of supportive. I agree. Do we have other people that are interested in sharing?
I'm seeing some stuff on the Jam board. So some of the systemic barriers that exist at various levels would be reliable transportation, and understanding the different types of disabilities and training for training and or lack of training for teachers. Teaching to a disabled student is conductive for the rest of the class, best practices that help all. That's the shift in mindset. And then another shift in mindset is teacher mindset, that teaching to a disabled student takes away from the rest of the class. That is a shift that I'm guessing that is the what needs to shift. The fact that they think that teaching to a disabled student will take away from the rest of the student.
What?
Thoughts?
And I missed that one right before the last one, but I'm gonna make sure that it comes out of the Jamboard into this. Okay.
There's two comments in the chat about how teachers, admin, or school staff view behavioral issues. How can we better support people at school sites, workers at school sites with supporting behavior and viewing that as communication? And I'm seeing a hand. Go ahead, Katie.
Anyone here who knows me knows that I think about everything through the lens of sex ed because that's my role. But I do want to put into the space, there's been, historically a systemic barrier to disabled students and students in special education programs receiving equitable access to sexual health education, which I think feeds into this cycle that we see in the criminal legal system and over criminalization of young people, and especially young people of color and young Black people with disabilities being overrepresented for criminal sexual behavior when students weren't given access to sexual health education in their school system. And the reasons are multitudinous. Resistance sometimes from teachers about not feeling comfortable teaching that content to students, sometimes resistance from parents thinking that students who have particular disabilities don't need the content, and sometimes also structurally not including special education teachers in the professional development that they would need to provide that education to students. But it's something that I've been banging all the doors about since I got hired in this role, and we talked a little bit about it in our small group, but I think it's a really key piece of creating equity.
And then Cynthia, I just want to add that teachers being trained for behavior support, but I'm sure the person that wrote it mean everyone's teachers and staff being trained for behavior support.
And just so everybody knows, we've got about 2 minutes left in the discussion session. We don't want anybody to feel left out or cut off. So please feel free to put comments in the chat in the Jamboard if you want to come off mute and share in these next 2 minutes. You're welcome to do so. We really welcome you to do so. Go ahead, Sheila.
No, I just wanted to say that I'm in a pretty unique situation because a lot of students my son's age is not his physical height and weight. And so that's one of the main concerns I have is in terms of safety for him at a school site. And I just kind of wish that there was a school that had support dealing with big and tall children aside from the adult school, because my son, if you don't watch out, he'll knock you down unintentionally. And so there's a real safety concern I have with him going back to school because of his physical height and weight, not to mention his behaviors that he has that makes it unsafe for him to go to school. So I feel like I was explaining in my group, I really feel kind of hopeless that there's even proper supports for him in place to go to school. He's far away from going to the adult school. So I don't know where things stand right now, but I kind of wish that they were like big and tall, like what they call the teachers' aides and paraprofessionals, people that have the strength to deal with someone the size of my son. Until then, I'd have to keep having him learn online, but he really needs a lot of help. And I just wish that the district had like specialty type of people that could deal with someone like my son. That's all.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing. We're going to go ahead and cut the sharing now. We are moving on. If you have anything else that you want that's burning inside that you want to get out, please add it to the Jamboard or drop it in the chat and we'll make sure that it gets captured.
And Samantha, that Jamboard stays open beyond this session. So, right?
Yes,
So people can continue to use it to communicate.
It is. Yep. And we'll probably add new slides to it at new sessions. So we'll have it all in one place and be able to go back and look over it. Sheila, I see that your hand is raised. If you have a question or something, please put it in the chat. A draft list of topics and questions for future sessions. We're hoping to have a minimum of 3 and a maximum of possibly 8 sessions that center this work throughout the rest of this school year. So here are here's a list of some topics that we are proposing. So core conversations: what is disability? The importance of definitions and language choice. 2, ableist language and ableist culture all around us. 3, disability is plural and cultural. Disability is diversity. 4, dominant ways of thinking about disability and their consequences. 5, disability identity, pride, and joy.
What?
Can I please get everyone to put themselves on mute? Thank you. 6, the normal and pathological, the enduring influence of eugenics in education and beyond. 7, what is ableism? Breaking it down and putting it all together. 8, disability history, disability ancestors. 9, intersectionality and disability justice. 10, contemporary movements for disability rights and disability justice. And then getting more specific, 11 is accessible, special, inclusive education. What do we mean? 12, the promise and limits of ADA and IDEA. And 13, no racial justice without disability justice, beyond the disproportionality debate. So all of those questions, we can go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, all of those questions. So each of these topics has a series of questions that's related to them, like sub questions. So we are looking for, like I said, we're hoping to have, if we do this quarterly, we will be able to have 3 more sessions that center this work. If we're able to do monthly, which we're not sure which one everybody has capacity to do now, right now, but if we do monthly, it will be up to 8 because we have 8 months left in the year. So if you click on the link that should be in the chat, yes, it has a full list of the headers and the questions that go with it. So what we're asking you to do is please go to this link. There's a survey, and we're asking you to rate each of the topics 1 through 8, 1 being the one that you're most interested in exploring, moving this work forward, and 8 being the one, not that's you're least interested in, but like 1 is most important, and then move down from there. So there's 13 topics total, but we're only going to be able to cover up to 8 this year. So if you can rank them 1 through 8, and then the ones there's in the survey, there are drop downs for each topic. So you can put not ranked if it's not one of your 1 through 8. Does that make sense? Can I get a thumbs up if I'm making sense? Okay, awesome. So please click on the link and go to the form, and we'll give you about 2 minutes to rank these. Links in the chat and on the survey, there is the link to the full list of all of the questions. So if you have if you're like, I'm not really sure what that means, like what would actually be covered in that session, you can click on that link and see what the subtopics are for that session.
Cynthia, there's a request in the chat. Could you move the what's on the screen back 1? There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Did everybody have access to the link? And is everybody understanding the ask? I'm seeing some thumbs up, some head nodding. Okay, if you have any questions or confused, please drop it in the chat, private message, come off mute.
Yes, yeah, I can clarify quickly.
All Raquel, so happy you were here. She says she's running off to set up our post PD Day Black Joy celebration event at the Central Kitchen that is open to everyone. We hope to see you all there from 4:30 to 6:30. OUSD Central Kitchen, there's going to be like wellness work. I think I heard something about massages. There's going to be food. There's going to be booster shots. All kinds of stuff is happening and it's open to everyone. So that again is 4:30 to 6:30 at OUSD Central Kitchen tonight. And thank you, Raquel, for being here.
I'm not sure who our timekeeper is, by the way. It's not me.
I don't remember who it's supposed to be.
I think we all just kind of just randomly just
It's okay.
doing each other's job. But I think we're on time. We actually caught up.
I think that
any questions?
Yeah, if you want to talk about the anchor text for these workshops,
we can
right
move
now,
while
that might
people-
be good.
That is
While
a good
people are
idea.
doing a survey. Yeah.
We should go to the next slide.
Here we go. So people lovingly have done this work for us. Look at the 2020 publication date on that. The work of disability justice in education and otherwise is really blooming right now. And just know that in that list of topics, there's a bibliography that's really useful if you want to start reading up, watching, doing all that. So this is the text that we are suggesting would be our textbook for that learning group. We're going to pull from it. And it's called Undoing Ableism, Teaching About Disability in K-12 Classrooms by Susan Baglieri and Priya Lalvani. And just we would complement this with videos and things that are more specific, but it is an anchor text. So we are hoping that, I don't know if there's any news, but we're hoping that if people join this learning group, they can get this book as part of participating. And what defines if it's going to be 3 sessions or 8 is if we get some support in the facilitation and construction of these, because the 4 of us have work plans that don't relate to this work. We are offering our time and a promise of quarterly sessions minimally, but we definitely need support.
Also, I just want to add that if anyone is interested in getting these books, we haven't, like Cynthia just said, we haven't got clearance or confirmation that these books will be readily available for us. But if you would like to have one of these books, can you please type your name inside the chat? I mean, inside the chat. Okay,
I just wanted to share, sorry, I just wanted to share quickly that one of the questions on the survey was missing 2 as an option. So it went from 1 to 3. I've added it. And if you refresh, they should all be correct now. I apologize for the typo.
Okay, thank you, Samantha. So like I mentioned earlier, that we have been kind of intertwining, doing each other work, but it's okay. So when I went back into the chats, I didn't see any other ones that we already discussed, but I do just want to lift and say thank you all for engaging with us through this platform. And I also want to thank the Healthy Oakland Sex Ed team. I'm hearing that they have the best curriculum, which is something that we probably need to engage more at our sites and add. Raquel is gone, but something we probably want to add to one of our curriculums. But what else? Oh, and just uplift what Samantha said about tonight at the Central Kitchen. We will be having our celebration. And I don't see anything else in here. Okay, so I guess that we can move on to the next section. Thank you.
Okay, so this is more of a logistical thing for everybody who is supposed to have been off today and decided to join us. We appreciate that you're here. This is the overtime form. Melisha, if you could please lock the link, drop the link in the chat.
I sure will.
I appreciate you. Please fill out this overtime form for SEIU and AFSCME members. And list Raquel Jimenez, Office of Equity Executive Director, as the approval so that she can make sure that you get compensated at your hourly rate for being here and doing this work with us today.
It's me.
A quick word about next steps, just that we have the people who registered for this session, so we will communicate with you when we review the survey and find out what people want to learn about and construct something. And another thing to note is that there is an appendix with resources from another session that was done last year, if you want to kind of catch up on that. So that's there. We will be communicating with all of you when we schedule. And please, all of us have our first name, last name at OUSD.org. If you have any suggestions, it seems like Fridays are usually the day when these things land. But if you have any suggestions around format, logistic, times of days, please communicate with us that feedback.
Yeah, and just as a closing, I'd like to extend just a deep appreciation for everybody who's joined us today in this session. I know we're talking about trying to identify future meetings, trying to figure out if it's going to be monthly or if it's going to be quarterly or by trimester. But I believe deeply that this work is going to take longer than just 1 year. This work is going to take more than just the people that we have with us here today. We're not starting work here, we're continuing work. This is work that I think is going to continue even beyond our time with the district. And I just, again, deeply, deeply appreciate you being with us today. I want to appreciate Samantha, Cintya, and Melisha as well for helping to put this session together and for helping to keep us thinking into the future. So as we move into hopefully what is a wonderful weekend for everybody, just know that you are appreciated. The work you do is important. The young people you support are important. And this work is important. So we have a video to share with you. If you have appreciations that you would like to put in the chat, please feel free to do so. And please be healthy, be well, and be safe. Thank you again. Go ahead, Cynthia.
You hear it?
Disability is a normal, positive part of human diversity.
There are 1 billion individuals in this world with disabilities.
There's a lot of kinds of different disabilities.
Disabled people have other important identities.
We want to have a say in everything that affects us.
We are people with disabilities building power and inclusive social justice movements.
You can't have racial justice or economic justice or gender justice without disability justice. Just like you can't have disability justice without having racial, economic, and gender justice. To actually achieve any of those things requires achieving all of those things.
When we evolve our institutions to be fully inclusive, we can build a world where all are free.
True inclusion is revolutionary.